Hi, I'm Marya.
I'm Paul from 7 Stars Bar and Grill.
Today we introduce you to one of our draft beers that we have on tap right now. We usually try and pour local as much as we can and stick to a lot of California beers, but occasionally we do branch out to, for instance, Deschutes out of Oregon or Founders out of Michigan.
But another one we often carry is Dogfish Head, and they're from Delaware. And because of the popularity, we try and carry their beers.
Very cool. And what are we drinking today, Paul?
Today we're drinking SeaQuench Ale. It's a session sour mashup of a crisp Kolsch, salty Gose, and a tart Berliner Weisse. Berliner Weisse. Had to spell it out phonetically so I can get it. Berliner Weisse. Yeah. Good stuff though. Good stuff. It's brewed with black limes, sour lime juice, and sea salt.
And it's so tasty. So sours have been around since 1836, but at least for us on our radar, they really just came up in the last few years in popularity. So the first time I tried one was at a beer event, and I took a sip of it, and my face puckered up, and my mouth watered, and I just didn't know what I put in my mouth. And I didn't like it, and I wasn't happy about it, and I put it down. But then a few minutes later, after letting it just sit for a minute like that, I started thinking like, that was really good, and now I want some more. And ever since then, I've been a big fan of the sours. What'd you think of it, Paul?
I like it, and it's all there for sure. It's that really tart. It's salty, but like she's saying, it throws me off at first. But it's good, and now my mouth is literally like salivating to get some more in there. It's really good.
Good stuff. So sours are made by introducing wild bacteria and wild yeast into the beer, and so because of that process, it's a very delicate process and a lot of uncertainty involved with it, so it can take months to ferment and years to mature, making it a very expensive beer at times. But this is
it's a session beer, so it's relatively low in alcohol content. So it's suitable for drinking over a long period of time. It's satisfying, and when it's really cold like this, it just makes it that much better. And because it's a session, you're looking at 4.9% ABV.
That's nothing.
That's no big deal. No big deal.
And also, I don't know if this technically falls under the definition of a session, but it seems less sour and less tart than some of the other sours that I've tried. So I feel
definitely not as sour.
Making it very much more approachable. So if you've been thinking about trying a sour, this is a great one to start with. Kind of see what you think about the style of it. We did a beer training here once. We had someone come in and do tastings and explain beer.
It was a lot of fun. Had the staff in with us, and we all got to learn something. As long as we've all been doing it, it's always nice to sit down and get schooled on something that you're not all that familiar with.
But they told us about zombie spores. So they were saying that when they do these sours and when they brew them, because of the wildness of the strains of bacteria and yeast, that they can like jump from vat to vat, or that even if we carry it on our lines, it can jump from line to line. So I don't know if that was an over-exaggeration. I don't know if the process has changed. We certainly haven't had any issues here with pouring a sour. We do keep a sour on line all the time. We have one line dedicated. We just switch out whether it's a sour. And within the sours, there's gozes, lambics. Those all fall under the same thing. We keep one line ready.
We've got a lot of great feedback from people appreciating that we have a dedicated line, that we regularly, constantly have beers of this style, this variety on draft.
Another method to get that sourness and that tartness is to introduce fruit during the second fermentation. So a lot of them have a fruit base, which is probably why I like them, because I like beers that don't taste like beer.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to tell you about today is how we became a Sci-Fi Fan Bar, because it wasn't our initial vision when we very first opened. It's something that's grown over the years. But when I think back to the seeds of where it started, I think back to Paul's first bartending shift.
Yeah, very first shift. Long story we can get into another time, but just picture it. It's a Sunday night. I'm hanging at the bar with the owner, and it's literally just a few of us in there. And the bartender gets all upset with the owner for whatever reason, and literally she just grabs her money, throws it up in the air, and says, "I'm out of here."
My favorite part of this story, because anyone who's been in customer service or the hospitality industry has dreamed of just grabbing everything, throwing it, and walking out.
Yeah, it was hilarious. It was hilarious, and literally just as we're sitting here, him and I were sitting at the bar, and he just kind of elbows me, and is like, "Well, do you mind getting me a beer?" And then so that's how it started right there, and ultimately the way we have things now is how it started back then. I surrounded myself with movies, and stuff that I wanted to see, and it grew from there. Regulars that were there already enjoyed it and picked it up. I met new people who would come in and really loved what we were doing, and
Sundays were his nights, and when he first took them over, they were notoriously slow
dead.
and quiet.
Nobody wanted Sunday nights. Nobody wanted.
But after doing this thing with his movies and everything, he really grew the night, grew the shift, and got quite a following. So when we started here, that part about playing the movies definitely was on our mind.
Carried over for sure.
When we started here in general with the bar, it was what's the bar we want to hang out in? What do we like to see in a bar? And so that's what we were kind of focused on, but we did not have the sci-fi part of it in place. But Paul started playing a little game with me.
Yep, just hiding little toys, just sprinkling them around everywhere.
So it goes back to the last episode we talked about Paul and his toy collections.
Yeah.
And this was a game that his cousins, and when I met him, his roommate was playing with him.
Co-workers, everything. But again, it was our bar, and I wanted to see stuff myself, so I hid.
Well, you would set up the dioramas.
I'd set up little dioramas.
When he was a kid, and then even like when I first was meeting him.
Right.
And like his roommate would go and move things just to see if he'd notice.
Start messing it up, and of course I'm going to notice. It's my stuff. I know how I want to see it.
So this was the opposite game where he was putting up figures around the bar to see if I would notice.
Right.
And so I would come in and there would be, so the very first figure that we ever saw go up was repelling Luke, and he's still up in the corner now.
Still up there, you can see him.
And which one is he?
It's Luke from Empire Strikes Back when he is rappelling down from the, or rather up to the AT-AT to get in there and destroy it.
So very technically that's where I started, but each time I would come in, there'd be something new. It was like a hunt to find.
Always try and squeak something new in there.
And then it started showing up in the Yelp reviews. We would be playing Star Wars movies on the screens. There'd be this figure, that figure, and it just kind of grew from there. So we opened in August of 2011.
Yep.
And at least to us, but as we talked about in the very first episode, 5 kids, so I can't say we got to a ton of different bars, but we'd never seen anything like that before.
We hadn't heard of it, we hadn't seen it, but it's just we were used to one thing, and that's what we did, but we didn't want that when it was ours, when it was time to do it.
So by the time we get to May the 4th of 2012, it's the first May the 4th celebration that we did, and we were already getting to have a reputation as that Sci-Fi Fan Bar. And each May the 4th, Paul would do something a little bit more.
Each year I just wanted to step it up a little bit more, whether it was more toys and posters or painting in the ceiling. Always wanted to outdo myself, and everything seemed to work, and people were liking it, so we just we rolled with it.
Yeah, it grew and grew and grew. When I think something in my Facebook memories will pop up of the way the bar used to look, and it's jarring. It's jarring to see what a difference.
Hard to look at.
How totally different it looked.
Yeah.
But that's how it grew, and people liked it, and we branched out into different fandoms and comic books. We go to comic conventions, and we love picking up new artwork. We love focusing on artwork from women and artists of color and featuring them on our walls. But it really just grew from there.
Just from there, and it continues to grow. I've got to play Tetris to try and fit new stuff around here, but still trying to keep it clean, trying to keep it classy, and keep it interesting.
Yeah, so another thing we've heard from a lot of people, which wasn't necessarily part of the plan, but it's just something that happened, was because of all the different movies always playing, the different things that are up, people come in here and make friends. They start talking to each other about what's your favorite scene from this movie, or what's your favorite character from that show or that fandom. And so it's really made it a great place for people to start conversations, make new friends. We've had a lot of love stories start here.
Lots of love stories, yeah.
That we like sharing around Valentine's Day to talk about. But it really was popular and continued to grow, and we love it.
We love it. We're going to keep going with it. Keep changing and evolving, getting some good stuff.
Cheers.
All right.